Opposition demonstrators threatened to storm the headquarters of Ecuadorian party and demanding the ousting of democratically elected president last night. Their protests were met by a much larger number of government supporters who defended the government's social achievements thus far. The protests were initially called to protest a small tax on large inheritance, but now the privileged sectors are calling for President Correa to resign. Correa was elected in a landslide victory in 2013. He has said in response that the government won't give in, and he has called for mass rally in the capital this Monday.
With a cost of $21 million, the Trans 450 in Tegucigalpa is currently a ruin of a project that supposedly was going to be the most modern public transport system in Central America. And now a corruption scandal surrounds the project that was supposed to have been inaugurated 2 years ago, but now is just a reminder of bad public administration and impunity.
It seems like they have forgotten this. It seems like robbery wasn't enough. There's no doubt that there was corruption, but that happens everywhere. That money should have been used in the streets, because you see that and it looks beautiful, but everything else looks horrible.
They told us this from the beginning, that they would build a low-cost transport system to be used by all. But we don't have any information. The people believe that the company was lying from the start, because they gave us the date, but they yet to give us completed. There is hidden interest behind this. That's why nothing is being said.
The project was approved when the current vice president was the mayor of Tegucigalpa, and the funds are a loan from the Inter-American Bank for Development. Recently, the National Congress created a commission to investigate corruption cases, but the Trans 450 was left out, even though thousands pass right by it every day.
There's nothing here. Nobody knows what happened with the money, because we've been expecting this for 2 years and we still don't see anything. These things are very bad, because they're not done properly. And instead of improving the streets, they're worse, because traffic has become even worse.
The current mayor has decided to use some parts of the Trans 450 to allow car access. The stops are abandoned and no authority is willing to give declarations on a possible inauguration of the project or an investigation of what for many is another multi-million-dollar corruption scandal. Gerardo Torres, Telesur, Central America.
The corruption in the transport sector, however, is just one side of the broader governmental corruption that has seen ongoing protests in Honduras. Last night, people holding torches and placards marched again, demanding the president's resignation and an end to corruption. Last night, protesters also marched to the U.S. Embassy, which has backed the Honduran government.
Friday, June 12th marks the World Day Against Child Labor. The issue of child labor is a pertinent one in Peru, with over 1.6 million children working sometimes in dire conditions and as a result not attending school. Some children start working from the age of 5 in brick factories like Lenin.
With my grandfather, we would bring clay and water and leave a lot there until it would dry. Then we would move it with a shovel. We would move it and add more water. And then there was the table with wood divisions, and we would put the clay there, flatten it, and then turn it around on the floor. And bricks would come out.
While many Peruvian children are in a heartbreaking situation, there have been some positive stories. One of these stories is a small school overturning the odds. Primary School 1223 in Lurigancho, Lima, had 72 out of their 19 students working in brick factories in 2001. But now only 15 out of 94 are employed, and most only for the weekends.
The teachers stay here trying to draw in the kids. We even went to their homes to tell them that we're going to resume now. The work has been like this, kid by kid, going to get them from their workplaces or homes. But almost always, these kids were mostly in the fields or making bricks.
NGOs and the state are financing some schools and giving scholarships to prevent kids having to work for a living and missing a proper education. But so far, their efforts have not improved the ranking of Peru as the second country in Latin America with the largest number of working children. Rael Mora, Telesur, Lima.
For the past 6 weeks, thousands of Guatemalans have marched regularly in the capital city against widening corruption scandal and calling for the resignation of President Otto Perez. Yesterday, the Congress chose members of an investigatory commission that will determine whether or not to strip Perez of immunity from prosecution and face investigation over the allegations which have rocked his cabinet. If the petition to strip Perez of immunity is granted, it would be the unprecedented in the modern history of the Central American nation. And lastly, European countries continue to provide insufficient help to people forced to migrate north from northern Africa. Yesterday, around 200 migrants gathered at the border crossing of Ventimiglia on the Italian-French border, with some so exhausted they lay on the grass and floor. French police are barring the migrants' entrance into the country. Some of the migrants have begun protesting in the area, holding banners and placards critical of French authorities. Over 100,000 migrants have crossed the Mediterranean and landed in European shores in 2015 alone.